Good evening. We're halfway there. Good evening. My name is Robert Hughes. I'm the Program Director of Music, and I am so incredibly privileged to welcome you to our Townwide Band Festival. The last Townwide Band Festival was in 2017. So tonight is a really big accomplishment for our students and pro staff. So let's give it up. We do have a couple of special guests here that I'd like to recognize briefly. We have Paul Cabana, who is the head principal of Fairfield Ward High School, here with us. We have Mary Raven, who is the Wright House principal from Ludlow High School, here with us. And we have Mr. Cheryl Prince, Vice Chair from the Board of Education. I do have a few other recognitions. A very special shout out to the Fairfield Ward High School PE department and the athletic director, Gina DiGiacomo. They graciously allow us to invade their space for 2 days to make this happen. Obviously, the gymnasium is not the optimal performance venue for musicians, but it's the only space really that allows us to get all these students together and all of you here to enjoy their performance. So we do really appreciate them allowing us to take over their space for 2 days. In addition to that, our custodial staff here has been absolutely amazing and tremendous. They set up like half of what you see before you get the chairs and stands. They've given us everything that we absolutely need and could ask for and more. And we also have a very special shout out to our music department secretary, Debbie Gabriel. She's like a ninja. She's there where she needs to be. She needs to be there. And I'd also be remiss if I didn't mention, with this audience, the Music Parents Association. It's a non-profit organization that supports so much of what we do here. And the best way to learn a lot more about that organization and consider being a part of it, especially as your students continue in band and continue to play and make music in high school, is to check out their website, fairfieldmpa.org. So you can go there, learn about it, and more importantly, donate. So if you want to get a glimpse of what the MPA is all about, you can check out their jazz. They're going to have a night of jazz fundraiser right here in town at FTC on May 9th. Tickets and information will be distributed through your students. It's going to be a great evening. It's going to feature the jazz bands from both Ward and Ludlow High Schools. It's going to be an absolutely amazing evening. So make a mental note of that. That brings us here tonight for the purpose that we're here, which is, of course, the Townwide Band Festival. The National Association for Music Education has designated March Music in Our Schools Month, and there's no greater celebration of that than our annual Townwide Festivals. Tonight brings together 350 band students from across all of our secondary schools, and it unites them as one ensemble, all in one place, no matter what middle school you go to, no matter what high school you go to. It's going to bring our students together, especially at the end of our concert when they're going to have an opportunity to play in unity, which is going to be something really special, and is one of the many, many wonderful things about music. So let's give it up again for the Townwide Band Festival. To kick off this evening, we are going to welcome the FLHS Jazz Ensemble under the direction of and immediately following that, we're going to have the honors 6th grade performance under the direction of Enjoy. I'd like to take a moment to introduce our guest conductor for the evening, Dr. Mary Schneider. Dr. Schneider is the director of bands at Eastern Michigan University, and of course, she brings with her a wealth of knowledge. She has the opportunity to travel literally all over the globe, sharing her passion, craft, and knowledge for music with developing musicians. Literally tomorrow morning, she's getting in her car, or a car that she rented, and driving down to Pennsylvania to do this for an intercollegiate band program. And then in a couple of months, she's going to travel to Australia and continue to share her gift. So we're very, very happy and fortunate to have her with us here this evening. She was able to work with our high school students and rehearse with them for the past 2 days, and we've been really appreciative of her ability to elevate and transform the notes on the page into some meaningful music making for our students. So let's please welcome Dr. Mary Schneider. So I just want to take another moment to thank Mr. Paul Cabana, who is the head principal of Fairfield Board High School, for hosting us and supporting this. Again, it's a lot of work. It's many hands to make light work, and he's been a huge supporter of the program. And so naturally, when you want to extend your appreciation to somebody, you ask them to speak in front of 1,100 of their closest community members. So let's give it up for Mr. Paul Cabana.
My name is Paul Cabana. I have the great privilege of being the principal here at Fairfield Board High School, and I just want to welcome you to the board tonight. And I was just so struck sitting here hearing the beautiful performances so far this evening. Think how fortunate we are in the Fairfield Public Schools for the outstanding music educators we have here. And a round of applause for them. About music in our schools month in March, and this evening really does underscore how important music education is and how great our musicians are. So before I sit down, I would like to take a minute and acknowledge the seniors from Fairfield Ward and Fairfield Ludlow. They have left us and me personally with 4 years of great musical entertainment. I want to thank them and their families. Give them a round of applause. So thank you again for joining us tonight. Have a wonderful evening in your ward.
I live in Michigan now, and I'll tell you, you cannot get a good egg-bag Parmesan sandwich in the Midwest. So that was a treat for me to be out here. I will say, this is incredible. I mean, I know you're all enjoying yourselves, but as Robert mentioned, I get to travel all across the country. My job in Eastern Michigan University is to conduct groups and supervise the band program, but I also train future music educators. And this is not the norm to have an event like this. This takes, as you can imagine, countless hours and just months and months and months of preparation. The logistics are mind-boggling. When I was rehearsing today with the students and they were putting this together, I just couldn't help it just brought back these memories. And I just thought my peers, the teachers you just heard, what talent is here. But I also got to witness today just how much they care about your children and how dedicated they are to providing them with these musical experiences. So it's really unique. I have only seen it on a small scale, but to have a district-wide event like this, I hope you're exceedingly proud of all of the teachers that are working with your children. And my hat's off to all of them. They're just incredible musicians, great colleagues. And also I want to thank Robert Hughes for the invitation, Scott Marsland here at Ward High School. Scott and I knew each other years ago when I was teaching in New Jersey and we got our masters together. So when Scott asked me, do you want to come and be an invited guest, I knew I had all these other commitments, and it was really hard to work in at the time, but I am so glad we worked it out, because it's just been a joy to be here. What a great model this is for the younger students to see what's possible in the high school, and for the high school students to hear their teachers perform. It's terrific. So I'm really glad that I was able to contribute in a small way to what this is. You should be very proud of what you have here. And I do want to just put in a plug for your support of music education, because the students, especially nowadays when they're staring at screens and there's so much analytical things going on in the world, this music gives them an opportunity to express themselves, engage different parts of their brains, be creative, and it's really something that enhances their life for the rest of their life. They can participate in music, as you all know. So thank you for encouraging that. I just want to add my congratulations to all the students who have performed tonight. The wind ensemble, combined wind ensemble, we're going to play a hymn song, which is 3 movements, and then Downey Overture is actually a piece that's a college level piece. And they have worked so hard on this, and you're going to be blown away. So thank you all again. I didn't mention Nick Albano, so Nick, thank you. Also the other high school teacher at Ludlow, thank you, Nick. And thank you, Scott. Good luck on your trip tomorrow. Thank you.
so much for coming out tonight. Please enjoy our dinner.